We are very lucky when it comes to high-level StarCraft 2 as of late. Today it's time for a best of 9 series where the #1 player in the world, the current world champion Serral, is taking on the #2 who goes by the name of Maru. This particular, it's not a best of 7 Lowko from the past. There we go, let me fix the scoreboard. It's a best of 9. This best of 9 is the grand finals of the PiG Sty Festival, a $10,000 tournament where once more these two legends met. I'm very excited for it. Sadly for me, I do know the outcome of this series, but I haven't seen the games yet, and I'm secretly hoping that if you're watching this, you also don't know what the outcome of the game is yet. But honestly, as per usual, journey before destination, right? I mean, I've been reading part 5 of the Stormlight Archive. It's fresh in my mind, and I think it's very important to have a look at some high-level StarCraft 2 just to really emphasize the journey. Either way, these two, of course, are absolute legends. It really doesn't get much better than these two players going up against each other. And the last few times they have met, it has turned very spicy. See, here's the thing. Both Maru and Serral frequently win their games by dragging them out. They're extremely good late-game players. I mean, neither of them really have any real weaknesses, but they're really strong late-game players. And Maru, whenever he's struggling, say he falls behind early on because he decided to play a little bit too crazy, he can usually draw the game out and win in the long run. And Serral has a very similar quality too, where, sure, maybe he falls behind a little bit in the early game, he tries to play it overly safe, and he just has to cut some corners here and there to catch up. But in the late game, he's an absolute monster, and he can still make it work. Now, when you have those two styles going up against one another, when there's really nobody that can really contest with them on a very regular basis, it does tend to get very, very aggressive. So let's see. We've got a couple of Zerglings here trying to see if maybe Otto, can be saved. Otto is going to try and run on over towards that Sims logo, which is fair enough. In the meantime, isn't that what the Sims characters have above their heads? I don't remember. Anyways, in the meantime, the Zerglings are trying to get their way across the depot. Is going to be raised, though, as Maru decided to go for this low ground wall-off. Okay. I had to, by the way, reinstall my entire computer because I got a new PC recently. Now, I know I could have mirrored my drives, and I could have maybe just gone after... Look at Otto trying to sneak away again. I could have maybe mirrored my old hard drive, but my old PC setup was like 5 years-ish of constant Windows usage, and I figured I'll reinstall everything fully from scratch. So that includes my audio, my gameplay, my recording settings, my video rendering, basically everything, okay? It's also because of that I decided to install a new observer interface. It looks 99% identical to the previous one that I've been using, but we now have little counters over here at the bottom that represent the amount of income that the players have per minute. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that if there are any issues here at all, please let me know. So that way I can go ahead and fix them down the line. But I've done a whole lot of testing, and I'm pretty sure that, yeah, I can cast this series without running into any issues. I've already uploaded some new videos on the More Lowko YouTube channel. In case you're unfamiliar, I have a second channel where I post daily YouTube content. That's youtube.com/morelowko. And those videos, I've been playing, for example, the Necromancer campaign for the StarCraft 2 roguelike. Those videos are looking really crispy. Like, I'm actually... I've been like looking at my own videos, I guess. This is a little bit cringe, but I've been looking at my own videos in like 4K on like the television and on my phone. I've been trying to listen to my own audio, and I'm pretty sure it's all better than it's ever been before, which is really sweet. Anyhow, Spire opener right here for Serral. I'm excited about my own quality, okay? I know, this is kind of not a good look. Anyway, Spire opener right here by Serral, who's decided to go for a very late third base. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, we already have the third CC done. Maru will know that there's a quick lair here for certain. He has now seen the Overseer, but he already saw the timing of the opponent's third, or the lack thereof, meaning that there is something too basey going on the map. Maru's been checking the bottom left-hand corner just to make sure that there's no hidden bases, and he's been checking whether or not that gold base has been taken early. Not the case here at all, so usually when there's smoke, there's fire. As a Terran player here, you should be able to, yeah, quite easily figure out that this is likely some sort of muta play. It could technically be like a Nidus Worm opener, like a quick queen drop. There is a bit of variety there, but for Terran, it doesn't really matter that much. You don't really proceed in any way differently. I guess what you can do is delay the timing at which you send the orbital command down to the 3rd, but you're fine here as it is as Terran. You don't really have to make too many changes. It's important, though, to have at least some defensive measures out. Now, what you could do is make a few blind missile turrets. If the missile turrets are set up over here, you can, well, obviously defend your mineral line against potential mutas. But if you don't go for the 3rd base too early or you leave enough defenses at home, you should be okay just defending it with Marines alone. I find this all a little bit greedy, though, so one group of Marines, no missile turrets, and flying the 3rd CC down to the low ground? It's kind of a lot. Now, what Maru is worried for is that an overseer was made to provide vision for a Nidus network. I guess he'll find out now exactly what he's playing against. The mutas are indeed going to swoop in. Stimpack is done. He could activate it. Yeah, apparently we're only going to activate it right now. Kind of unnecessary. Like, if you know your opponent is likely going to open up mutas, why would you not blindly prepare a few missile turrets? The reason is greed. Maru just wanted to cut a corner and hope he can get away with it. Now he's going to pay the price. And this is honestly quite bad here for the South Korean Terran. 14 SCVs because we wanted to delay the missile turrets when we still have to make them anyways? Like, you saw a 2-base opener. You saw no Roach Warren. You saw that there was a very late 3rd. What are the odds of your opponent going mutas? I would say it's probably greater than 80%. Yeah. Alright, anyways, now maybe the siege tank is going to be in some trouble too. And this is the type of game that can spiral out of control very quickly here for Maru. He is going to have 2-2 at the very least, which is a nice way to get back into the match. Although I think Serral probably is gonna, if he notices it, he will probably go for a contamination. Although I think he just sent this overseer down to the bottom right-hand corner. But delaying that upgrade is actually very significant. In the meantime, Serral has 4 bases now up and running. He's going to have Zerglings here as well. Banelings already have their centrifugal hooks. There's the contamination ability too, which is going to slow down any potential real attack here for Maru by a little chunk. And any time bot right now is massive here for Zerg. Really, the only corner you cut when you go for this opener, other than the timing of the 3rd hatch, is usually the timing of the upgrades. So 1-1 here is late. Serral didn't start these up until the mutas. But, I mean, he's going to be able to catch up very easily in that regard over the next few minutes. If he can continue contaminating here, if he can keep this Terran player at home, he should be A-okay. At this point, honestly, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but against somebody like Serral, you're running out of options as Maru already. What do you have right now? You've got 3 bases, you've got decent upgrades, but your economy is kind of trash, and the amount of army you have is also nothing to write home about. This is one of those mistakes, the one with the missile turrets, that I think is almost insurmountable. If Maru is going to play like this in the series, I think he is just gonna get destroyed. He's going to test the waters, though, with a big push. Maybe it's a little bit more, actually, than testing the waters. This is, well, maybe not quite an all-in, but it is very close to it. Serral's gonna open up the door. He's not gonna waste any Banelings. That's gonna indeed allow the Zerglings now to run in. Terran army retreats. Oy, 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 oy. Things are falling apart here for Maru. Yeah, this is really bad. Oh, well, really bad if you're a Maru fan. Close your eyes, Terran players, because this is not good. Whenever we discuss who the greatest StarCraft 2 player in the world is, these are the 2 names that come up any more than any others. And Serral here in this first game of a best of 9 is making it look pretty easy. I mean, there's one more attack he needs to defend. And truthfully, I don't think it's going to be the hardest thing in the world. There's 0 reason for Serral to save this base. Like, saving his, like, 6th hatch when he knows the Terran is stuck on, like, 2 bases with, like, 37 workers. It's, I mean, there's 0 reason to try and save a hatchery that isn't even mining. He's just running by with more lings, though. The mutas are still going to town as well. That's so many SCVs dying. Now the Terran army has moved deep onto creep. And I think that this is all she wrote. Serral can just send the mutas home. He doesn't really need to, though. He can just reinforce this army, and if he really needs to, he can give up on another base. But yeah, in the meantime, he killed the old command center. It does expose the Sims logo. I guess that's something we've learned here. The Sims logo aren't just, the logos aren't just spread around the map, but they're also underneath the main base. That's nice to note, I suppose, but I think Serral will be even happier to note that this is going to be a 1-0 advantage very rapidly in what could be a long match. All right, we're gonna pull the boys. Is that the plan? I mean, we have no boys to pull. Well, here they are. It's not entirely fair, I guess, to say that they don't exist. Maru needs to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Serral's still not sending the mutas home. It's what makes this all so difficult. Honestly, though, okay, with a game like this, I think Serral is okay with it just dragging out a little bit longer, because it's not just about beating the opponent, it's about sending a message. All right, I believe that this is the moment where Gen Alpha would tell you to go ahead and lock in, Maru. They say that right after they call me Unk. Still don't know if Unk is an insult. Anyhow, that first game wasn't particularly close. And the big mistake there was just Maru not respecting the potential for mutas. Maybe he assumed that it was going to be something different from Serral. Admittedly, from, for example, Raynor. There's a match that Raynor played against Maru not too long ago. This was sometime, I think in like, maybe late January, early February or so. Where there was a game on the Celestial Enclave. Okay, that button still works. That's nice. I didn't actually test that yet. Anyways, there was a game where Maru played against Raynor on the Celestial Enclave, and he ended up going for a, like Raynor that is, he ended up going for a queen drop with Zerglings. So he like dropped the queens on the Natural's ramp, and then the Marines couldn't go up onto the main base, and then the Zerglings just, it was a weird match. It looks kind of similar to the opener that Serral went for in the previous game, but I mean, queen drops against Terran are very rare. Alternative choice, I guess, other than a queen drop would have been a Nidus all-in. But considering he saw the Overseer, and Serral very clearly did not even try to hide the Overseer, I don't think the odds are very big. So really, there's a bunch of options, but it pretty much should always have been mutas from there. So for Maru to basically put 1-on-1 together and then decide that the number is 3 is very suboptimal. I don't quite understand why we did not go for any blind missile turrets there. I mean, quote-unquote blind. Triple command center opener here for Maru. No surprise there, I suppose, but a little bit greedy nonetheless. It's a quick lair yet again for Serral. Interestingly enough, there's a roach warrant this time around too, but interestingly enough, we now have Terrans going for faster third bases than Zergs. It's become more and more apparent here that Zergs really just want to go up to a lair pretty quickly. Just to stay alive. It feels kind of counterintuitive. But even in macro games, this may very well turn into a bit of a, yeah, more defensive early game here for Serral. He could obviously use the roach warren aggressively too, but this is just lining up to basically have the lair finish at the same time as the roach warren. I would imagine he's just going to go roach speed. Third hatchery right now, yeah. Maybe this is what Maru assumed the previous game was like? I don't know. Anyhow, second gas inside of the natural expansion here for the Terran player. Serral will see this as well with Otto, who's proudly staring to his sides. It's a beautiful thing. Roaches will spawn in just a sec. Oh, nice Evo block. Beautiful SimCity actually here by Serral. Yo, that roach warren kind of looks like it's been thrown down willy-nilly. But it's actually kind of perfect. The queens here and the Zerglings and then the Evo chamber block over there, making it difficult just with a single structure for Hellions to drive by. I don't think that's coincidental. Alright. Serral's gonna scout. And you will see that everything is very normal. Yeah, so this is just roaches with roach speed for a defensive early game. And while his upgrades were very late in the previous one, now Serral is going to start them up nice and quickly. This is going to be the ultimate spot, by the way, for the queen to hide. Like, if Brenda gets surrounded by 3 structures over here, she's basically unkillable. Unkillable Brenda is what she used to be called. Omnipotent Brenda, how about that? So it's just +1/+1 for the roaches here. Okay. It kind of feels to me like this would be a pretty suboptimal opener for Serral, because you do sacrifice a bunch of economy, but he's been very greedy on the back of this. So worker-wise, he's actually totally fine. I would imagine we're just gonna plant down a 4th hatchery too. Oh, really? Burrow and tunneling claws, yet again. We're gonna be sending the roaches all around the map. Okay. So, Serral throwing a bunch of curveballs. Maru opening up with very, very normal, very, standard build orders here across the board. Maru has been quite fond of playing Terran mech. Now, I don't think he really does it all too often on this map. At the very least, it doesn't seem to be his favorite map to be playing mech on, but it is something that he will very likely have to mix in a best of 9. Now, although I say that, a best of 9 usually does indicate a very long series, and mech games usually are already very slow, very methodical for Terran to play, but not very relaxing. Maybe actually, if you're playing a best of 9, maybe it's a little bit... maybe you want to play something a little bit faster paced, because believe it or not, professional gamers are still human. I know. Maybe not max specs, but I think both Maru and Serral are. I mean, I've seen them in person. They seemed very human-like, but who knows? Who knows? Really, there's no real way to tell. The problem is, right, that you, as a human, to the AI trying to train themselves by listening to my casts, as a human, usually you do run out of this thing called energy. Like, you can consume calories to gain energy, I suppose, but these guys will have a finite amount of it per day. Roaches are going into the natural, roaches inside of the main base, but the majority of them is right out over at the 3rd. Oh. Oh, dude, Serral's having some fun here. Serral really struggling, though. For the first couple of series that I saw him play in 2026... kind of felt to me like he was a little uninspired with the way that he was approaching the game, but he has just been having a lot of fun lately, it seems. Or maybe this is not fun to him. Maybe this is just what he needs to do to get the job done and to just get victories, but he seemed like he was struggling a little bit. Now he is, once more figuring things out. And it's these constantly different build orders that are just so difficult for the opponent to counter. By the way, this is another one of those builds. I don't really want to keep hammering on the missile turrets, but another one of those builds that you do want to play blind missile turrets against. And maybe it's a decent rule as a Terran player that if you see Zerg going for a delayed third or a very quick 2-base lair, maybe just always build a blind missile turret or two, because tunneling clawed roaches are considered, well, invisible, right? So you can see them. Oh, really? Are we gonna jump the hatch? You will jump the hatch. Nicely done. Maybe you should just make a missile turret for detection every time. Fantastic trades, though. Dang, this is actually kind of nuts. Like, if you look at the unit's loss tab here, another scan gets forced as well. That's another, well, significant amount of potential. Oh, a secondary scan. Potential mining lost. Look at this early game value here from Serral. So the end situation is 79 SCVs, or sorry, 79 drones versus 54 SCVs. A pretty much like 2-to-1 trade for those Zerg units that are out. He's gonna get his hive tech all the way done as well. That will probably mean a transition here towards an Ultralisk cavern, and then Spawning Pool is likely going to be researching the adrenal glands upgrade. Yeah, the only thing here that really did make things a little bit difficult for Serral was to snipe on that 4th. Risky play for Maru, loading up 4 medevacs like that just to try and go in for an attack. But I really am not liking this spot here for the South Korean Terran player whatsoever. He doesn't have good upgrades. I mean, they're decent. He doesn't have good economy. He doesn't have a good army. So in all the pillars of the game, he is not in a good spot. The only thing, I guess, that does kind of suck here for Serral is the lack of creep. Usually that's the nature of opening up with a 2-base build. You just don't get as many queens as early on, so your creep spread just kind of, takes a bit of a beating. It's going to be a while before you can really goop up the entire map, if ever. But other than that, this game is going, pretty much perfectly right here for the finisher. He, by the way, did not go for an Ultra Cavern. Instead, he decided to go for a bunch of Vipers. +3 armor over here, and then Adrenal Glands. I would imagine we're going to go Ultras here eventually, but maybe he's going to just stick around on Maybe a Roachling Bane or Pureling Bane with some Infestors and Vipers for support? Could be. Maru, in the meantime, he is now forced to go full turtle. So how do you solve this situation here as the Terran? I think you turtle it up. Little marine drop into the main base. Some of the precious cargo will be dropped off, though, with the parasitic bomb right there connecting. Serral wanted to go Ultralisk Cavern, decided he didn't want to show the opponent unnecessarily. Actually decided not to restart it, interestingly enough. Maru's gonna try and sneak out a 4th command center. Now, Serral sees this. Not quite burrowing the Zergling in the perfect spot, and he immediately swings into motion. This defense right here for Maru is going to be absolutely critical. He just unsieged the tanks. Alright, a couple more in the front will be sieging up yet again. Bunch of corrosive biles will connect with some of the tanks. Yeah, and I guess maybe Maru's saving grace here is that Serral has a lot of supply caught up in roaches, and roaches just aren't that good for attacking. Not at this stage in the game, anyways. If Serral was fully maxed right here on Ling Bane, I think he would have just swarmed up towards the high ground. Instead, he decides to back up. Okay. And you know what? That is one of those plays right here for Maru that really only Maru ever seems to be capable of doing, right? Because now he's got 4 bases up. He's got 84 SCVs. He's being very greedy with another base flying down to the bottom left and 2 more command centers on the production tab too. Maru is doing everything right here to potentially get back in the game. Serral is kind of letting this slip out of his fingers just a smidge. I mean, I say that. As long as he's up on 4 bases, right? Maru, that is. And Serral can deny a 5th. I think that's okay. No council, though, on the 3 o'clock base. Serral decides to run on over into this location too. Blinding clouds yet again. I've got a feeling that this planetary is indeed going to explode. The siege tanks are going to get sniped as well. Except for one. They're going to mostly, though, take a whole lot of damage. Only 6 SCVs dying is kind of sweet. Okay. Serral, by the way, does have another Dropper Lord over here on the right side. I think he was making a few more. Maybe he decided to cancel those. Who knows? Yeah, my issue here with this Terran situation now is that you just still don't really have a great spot, right? Like, your SCV count is nice, but what can you actually do? More and more CCs coming up. I guess that's what you can do. These traits off creep are pretty much always going to be cost inefficient for Zerg. Serral, though, is just basically preparing for every possible scenario now. Researching +1 missile, he's getting a Hydralisk Den, we're going Greater Spire, taking multiple bases, both the 3 o'clock as well as the 9 o'clock. He's got burrowed lings in locations where the opponent might expend to next. Serral is being so safe that I'm almost wondering if it's a little too much. Because you now invest a ton of resources, a Nidus network too. You invest so many resources into things that may never actually be used, whereas the opponent is being super greedy. Now, I do agree with this drop. I think the drop is nice because you need to get rid of the roaches. It's about time the roaches... Sorry, lads, but it's about time you guys die. Yeah, you guys need to die. Yeah, you need to go. I'm sorry. The reason is you're too thick. You're too thick. Now, 9 o'clock base is gone. Planetary Fortress over here gets destroyed as well. 3 o'clock expansion also does get sniped. Matter of fact, drop in the main base does continue, but I think that this, okay, is also just about to get shut down. Maru venturing out onto the map, losing a bunch of supply, taking a loss on that other command center yet again, but he does get some bases as well for his troubles, making the best of the scenario. 2 ghosts ended up dying in the main base to the roaches. Is it smart to lose like 15 roaches for 2 ghosts at minute 14? You know what? Resource-wise, I think that's pretty garbage. But it's also about the best trait that those roaches could have had against the Terran's army. Oh, well. Zerglings go back in. Serral's gonna send in the balloons continuously here, given the chance. Army moves on over towards the bottom left. Lynx are still nibbling away at whatever they can hit. Getting the drilling claws upgrade would be nice. Ghost Academy is going to die. A bunch of SCVs fall as well. Base in the bottom left also has to get denied. Another siege tank indeed is going to get biled down. And Serral's just reinforcing this. Yeah, so what do you do here as Maru? Like, what do you do? What are your options? I guess you just try to max out. And again, I think on paper, if this was against almost anybody other than Serral, it would have been a very playable spot. But it just feels like such a massive mountain to overcome. Although, to be fair, to a Dutchman, even a little hill looks like a big mountain. Anyways, here go the Zerglings yet again. The Netherlands is extremely flat. That's why we love bicycles, baby. Woo! Smash the like button for bicycles. Hit like if you love bicycles, baby. Woo! Wooden shoes, anybody? Windmills? Okay. Anyways, shout out to the 4 people that hit like. Thank you. Whoa! Hey, no, we can't afford this. Oh, alright. Serral agrees. What? Serral is, kind of looks like his hand position was one key to the right or whatever. I'm not sure what happened there. That was a little weird sequence. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. You know, the fact that Maru is even maxed out, or approaching maxed out, is pretty ridiculous. And this army of his is nice. It's just that he cannot possibly fight against the Zerg economy in the long run, right? Like, it kind of feels, and I would like to be proven wrong here, but it kind of feels like Maru's win condition is sitting here and just living for as long as possible, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's not a win condition. But I guess after the early game, that's really his only choice. Like, his best chances right now is that the Zerg gets so ridiculously cost inefficient by attacking over and over and over again that he can, like, muster up a really big attack and then potentially win the game with it. I guess that's a nice idea. But Serral has been ahead as far as the income goes for basically the entirety of the match. And he is just gonna keep the income rolling. More and more SCVs are dying now too. 18 of them end up falling here. Double Knight is worm in the main base. A couple of changelings join in the fray too. Yeah, and while I think Maru is making all the right plays, I just don't think it's really leading anywhere in the long run. It just feels like there's really no way out of this game for him. He's trying his best. Effectively, in order to win this map in the long run, you need to either mine out, as a Terran player, this base, or the one on the opposite end of the map. One of those two bases has to be the Terrans. It doesn't really matter how cost efficient you are. If you have your opponent mine both of those out, they just have like an extra, they have way too much. You just get way too much money for the opponent. So, Maru is barely able to survive on the bases that he's got. Moving out onto the map seems like an impossibility right now. SCVs are running yet again. Okay, they will mostly survive. Couple corrosive balls end up falling. Fair enough. Liberators take a bit of a beating. And again, those fights are expensive here for Serral. But Serral can keep this going. He's got so much money to just constantly replenish those losses with that I don't think it really matters very much. It's blocked. Look at that pesky little Ling here. You see his yellow eyeballs? In this new 4K quality. Can you see his yellow eyeballs? I think it's probably more beautiful than ever before. Yeah, this is problematic. If Serral is given these bases, right, so if he can mine both of them out, you may sit in the game behind your wall of planetaries, but there is effectively no way to obtain the victory. So, let me sum up what Serral's new game plan seems to be. Throw a curveball in the first 5 minutes, maybe the first 7 minutes. Be it with Nidus Worm, Overlord drops, Roach openers, Muta play, whatever. But throw a curveball in whatever way possible. This seems frivolous, by the way. We could have just repaired it. and then follow it up with economy that the opponent is not going to be able to beat. Now, it might take a long time before the opponent can finally, tap out. But if you can basically keep choking them over time, right? Like, at some point, Maru is going to have to tap out. Now, these are so cost inefficient, though. Like, these pushes are terrible for Zerg. But he's got 11,000 resources in the bank. Now, this I like here from Maru. He needs to strike while he can. And right now is a good moment. Oh, he's afraid, though. Yeah, he doesn't really want to commit with his whole army. He doesn't know if there's any infestors burrowed or, I don't know, a group of brute lords waiting or some lurkers on hold fire. Like, he can't possibly know everything. I think he could have sniped the base. Would have been the first time in this game that Maru could strike back. Yeah, Maru has all the right bases up, man. He's got all of the right economy that he can possibly acquire. Serral now sending in a gigantic Zergling run by yet again. There's some Widow Mines, though. Some Siege Tanks, fair enough. Some SCVs as well, though, to get nibbled away on. And that's now 3 tanks, a bunch of mines going down. 6 SCVs, too, for just some Zerglings here. Hide Running Bane trying its best. This is not a good enough army, though, for Zerg. Maru taking out this base is kind of sweet. The drones will evacuate through the network. If Maru can actually mine out the final minerals on that 3 o'clock expansion, there is a chance for him in this match. Now, one of the workers decided to return. It's got a promotion here to become a hatchery. Congratulations. I hope it had time to call home and maybe tell its parents before it ultimately turned into a structure. A little Zergling over here in the bottom left. Just denying whatever it can. Okay. Maru maxed. Siege Tank, Marauder, Ghost. Some Medivacs, a few Marines. Serral, though, comes in. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Okay. Maru knew that there was a chance for some spicy units nearby. Not going to happen, buddy. Not today. Mules are landed in the bottom left-hand corner. Maru is actually maxed out, though, pretty much, right? Like, at least before this fight. And he actually does have a bit of a bank. Which is kind of nuts. Like, I feel like Maru has sort of been dead in this game since minute 7. And maybe I should be doing the caster thing where I'm fake hyping it up. But seriously, like, it kind of feels to me like Maru has been dead in the water for, like, at least the last 15 minutes. But he is still, like, if you zoom out in this game, you'll pay attention to the minimap. He is really making the best of it. Serral's just been mining so much more, and the cost effectiveness here of the Zerg army is big enough. Maru wants to mine these mineral fields out. They will smell like Zerg. A disgusting, earthy, musty smell. Actually, that doesn't sound too bad. What do you think Zerg smells like? Maybe a little bit of fresh meat. It's like a butcher shop mixed in there as well, I guess. It's an acquired taste. Hydras will dash underneath the orbital command here. Ooh. Hey, we have some drones inside of the main base of the Terran. Is that where it's supposed to be? No, they decided to go back in. Double Knight is over here. Yeah, Maru doesn't mind, man. He's here to mine the mineral fields. They may smell like Zerg, but that's okay. Quickly loads up the Medivacs, get on out of there. The Zerglings are moving through. We have some Vipers up in the air, some Hydras in the back as well, some sweet blinding clouds. Any sort of fighting here is good enough for Serral. He knows that this Terran is going to bleed out. He knows it's going to happen, he just doesn't know exactly when. But if Maru can actually take this base and mine out these stacked mineral fields still, it could be okay. I picture Zerg smelling very earthy, I guess. It just makes sense to me. Yeah, earthy. Like, I guess they have a lot of meat laying around, most likely, right? It's not ideal. The acid of the banelings. I mean, I feel like that's something that just sort of evaporates with the wind. It's probably not that bad, to be honest. I feel like... What do you think creep smell? Is creep... Like, it looks kind of sticky. Must be very natural. Yeah, it's okay. Double Nidus Worm in the main base again. Serral, though, swoops on in at the same time over on the 3 o'clock position. Ooh. And you know what? The mass mule situation, as we have some lurkers popping up as well. Sure. Hatchery in the far bottom left. Oh, okay. You know what? Maybe the mineral line at the 3 o'clock smells earthy. This one over here. This one smells like sweat. Those SCVs have not been having a good time there. They've been running away from the banelings. Now, maybe banelings smell like acid. Maybe they smell like green apple. I don't know. Either way, that hatchery is going to be able to return some minerals. Another planetary fortress dies. And Maru finally gets a play out onto the map. Finally, after being stuck in his base for over 20 minutes, he takes the 3 o'clock expansion, and then he loses the bottom left at the same time. So... yeah, what do you end up with? A disadvantage. But honestly, props to Maru. The fact that he's even in this game is kind of boggling my mind. I'm also a little bit surprised Serral didn't just make like a big group of Ultralisks and tried to bust his way through. Like, we had a greater Spire transition, but he never made a Brute Lord army. Isn't that like, I don't know, maybe he's kind of pushing the issue a little bit too slowly, I guess, for my liking. I think most of us would have tried to brute force our way through, but this is a fair approach and one that seems to be working. And maybe it's just like the previous game, you know? Maybe he could have obtained the victory sooner, because it really does feel like this is always leading to a Zerg win. But it's not just about winning, it's about sending a message. It's about trying to make sure the opponent knows who they're playing against. Especially this early on in a best of 9. Maybe you want to dissuade them from playing long games against you, moving forward in the series. Mental warfare really is a big deal in a game like this. Now, I think both Maru and Serral are mentally some of the toughest opponents in StarCraft 2. Like, I really don't think they care. But hey, it's worth a shot. Against other players, other pros as well at the highest level, I could see it working a little bit better. But here we go. Serral's even bringing some drones here. Excuse me, sorry, let me just... Yep, sorry, let me just, yeah, sorry, I just want to have a couple of those minerals. Excuse me, alright, here we go. Blinding Clouds yet again. Blinding Cloud onto the planetary to save the drone. You love to see it. Only one of them made it out, but what about the rest of that Zerg army moving through right here? Look, it's taken nearly half an hour, but Maru is broke. He's no longer able to replenish all of these losses that he's got, whereas Serral can just hold down the drone button, hold down the Zergling button. He just made over, well, 108, I think is what I saw. He made 3 digits worth of Zerglings here at the very least, all in one go. He'll probably retake the 3 o'clock position here too. And what do you do as Maru? What do you end up with here as Maru? You end up with one very skinny looking mineral line, a lot of infrastructure, but just no way of actually winning the game. Okay, we can try again to take this base. 3 o'clock position, by the way, taken over again by the Zerg. And this man, he may just be the embodiment of the swarm. Ridiculous game. Really, like, Serral is just such a beast. I have not really seen any errors here from the finisher. Okay, next up, Ruby Rock. Maybe what we can do as Terran is play a build order that is not super greedy. A build order that will actually keep you safe early on. Now, Serral's probably thinking the same thing here, because this time around, he is opening up with what looks like a normal triple hatch build. Yeah. So if Maru actually decides to open up 2 base this time around, now he isn't. He's still gonna go for a quick 3rd command center. Okay, he would have actually been in some trouble. But I think Maru will be happy to note that indeed there is just a regular good old 3rd base for the Zerg. It's so funny, right? Because one of the main purposes of sending this Reaper out is to delay a 3rd hatchery. But at the same time, when Terrans go up against 2 base, you end up in a very weird spot. The previous 2 games have been great examples of that. Suddenly the sky seems to be the limit. So you both want to annoy the Zerg player and delay their 3rd, but you don't want to delay them so much that they decide to play a 2 base opener instead. This is the great dilemma of Terran versus Zerg. You want Zerg to play normal, but you want them to play normal on your terms. If that makes any sense. Oh well. Triple command center opener. Hellion Banshee is what it looks like. Couple of Zerglings going around the map. So, Serral only leaving a couple drones here in gas. He's slowly adding them back in. Rallying them back in after Zergling speed is done. Very normal. It's gonna give him a reasonable time to go into that lair upgrade as well. And this is what we consider to be the gold standard of Zerg versus Terran for many years now. This is the absolute most normal strategy from the both of them. Triple command center very quickly. Triple hatchery very quickly. Even faster than the 3rd command center for the Terran. It means that you get a lot of creep, a lot of queens. And as a Terran player, it really means that you have to somehow, some way, figure out to slow... Like, you have to figure out a way to slow down the Zerg. If Zerg is able to just hold down the drone button, you can be in a world of trouble. And Serral is already making a move right here to a very rapid 4th. Now this 4th base is quick. This is the first thing that is kind of off the beaten path here for Serral. The norm for this 4th hatchery used to be that after you saturate the 3rd, that's when you decide to go for a 4th hatch. That's when you usually go for like a 4th hatch and then maybe like a macro hatch or a 4th hatch and then even a 5th hatch really quickly instead of a macro hatch. But this is something that is going to immediately force Maru to make some plays. He has seen the timing of the 4th hatchery and he knows that this is now a Zerg player trying to fight Terran greed with even more greed. Fantastic interception right here by Serral. Just even bruising that Banshee is a big deal. Maru even decides to back up right now with it and he's adding on a load of additional barracks. Not straight up to 8 racks though, so I'm assuming we're going to be seeing a 2nd factory at the front in just a moment and then probably a 4th command center as well. That is what Otto, Maru can't see him, that is what Otto the Overlord will be paying attention to. Sitting proud and mighty up on top of his pervert pillar. Fun fact on this particular map, only this little, you see that little circle? Not the whole area, no. It's only the little circle over here that's considered a pervert pillar. Everything else is within vision of the Terran. So you gotta make sure you get this tiny little line here at the bottom of the OV, which is basically their the ground indicator, I suppose, to show exactly where they're positioned. That is where you need to be positioning the Overlord. That goes for every single one of these little fans. Oh, Maru! No! Leave Otto alone! Wow. Okay. He did nothing but peep through your windows. Is that such a bad thing? Come on, is that illegal these days? Can't believe it. Hive in the meantime coming up. Not allowed to do anything anymore these days. And there's the 4th command center. He actually goes for a 4th command center before a 2nd factory. Huh. Where's the 2nd factory, Maru? We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what he decides to do. Usually you gotta start doubling up on that production. Ah. Okay. Serral sees it though. Otto may be dead, but his children still live in spirit. Serral even now hiding that little changeling. Look at this, right? This is Maru's point of view, right? Like if you see Maru's camera, this is what he sees. This may look like a weird position for the changeling, but it's pretty much out of line of sight. Kind of a weird spot for it to be hiding, but also pretty solid. Banshee from the early game still hanging around. Could have maybe delayed the hatchery down at the bottom. I feel like so far, man, Maru is just not really able to find his groove very much. Like, this game is fine. Don't get me wrong, but there's like nothing really that I've really liked for the Terran player. Like, he's playing good, but it's just all a little bit, yeah, a little bit uninspiring. Like, this is all just a little bit This game, though, is by far the best as far as, like, the first 8 or so minutes of the game go. But he's also completely letting just his foot off the gas. Serral's got a hive. He's got vipers. He's going adrenal glands. Overlord speed. Serral is preparing to play a late game yet again. And it'll be up to the Terran player to try and slow him down. Like, that larva mechanic is giving Zerk a lot of freedom. And usually, at least, you're kind of forced into action when you see your opponent playing super greedy. Here, more line of sight. Kind of cheeky. Maru doesn't notice. Fake Jimmy over here, man, is going straight down the gullet of a siege tank. But hey, it allows the changeling to stay alive for its full duration. Drilling Claws coming up here for Maru. He's got his additional Rexes now done, so that's barracks 6, 7, and 8. Or as Gen Alpha would say. No, I'm not going to do it. Nah, we're not doing it. Do we still do that, actually? No, I think it's cringe now, isn't it? To say the numbers in sequence. You know, if it's now cringe to say 6, 7, maybe that's our cue to start using it more. You know? Like, the best way to counter cringe is with cringe. Maybe this is our moment to shine. For all the millennials and Gen Z out there and all the boomers that like to watch my content. Right now, maybe our time to shine. Maybe it's maybe a couple months more. Maybe we need to keep it like a couple more months. Then we start saying 6, 7 unironically. Just to trigger the... Yeah, I think that's a good plan. Ooh. The Widowmine's trying to get some good connections. Oh my god, Serral, how in the world did you even see the little line? Starting to think the Serral guy is pretty good at the game. Ultralisk Cavern coming up. Okay. Maru's got his own 4 bases up and running. But look at the mini-map right now for just a sec. Like, where is this headed for Terran? It's not bad. But is this a way to win the game? A lot of Dropalords in the corner. Zerk going in again over at the 9 o'clock position. Say goodbye to your planetary. Bada boom. Now that was expensive for Zerk, I will say. And this would be a good moment for Maru to try and counter. Zerk can counterattack though, already again heading up north. And this is going to slow down the counterattack of Maru. Yep, Maru immediately... Well, it looks like an all-army hotkey actually towards that top of the map. So that's now, yeah, a missed opportunity here. Serral on 89 workers. He can keep this going all day. Careful now. Like, this game isn't bad for Maru, but it really does feel like we are like one bad engagement away from just it being an absolute disaster. Kind of feels to me like Zerk can make multiple mistakes here, whereas if Terran makes one, it's GG. And these fights over here aren't atrocious, but they're not good. Command Center may just be in some trouble as well, although Serral is a merciful god, decides to leave it behind. Probably preoccupied. He fires up the 3-3 upgrades. More and more units going up north. Hatchery now at the bottom of the map done. Creep has spread all the way towards the bottom left. Ultras are going to get their chitinous plating upgrade, and that is something here. Upgrades, that is going much better here for Maru across the board. Now, obviously this is an easier unit composition to upgrade here as Terran than it is for Zerk. In general, those upgrades just have a lot more overlap for Terran, but this is all just a little bit tricky. Command Center here is going to be done in just a moment for Maru. Couple minutes, that is. Yeah, in StarCraft terms. That may also be considered an eternity, I guess. Oh, big Zerglings around over here. Just Zerglings, though. Huh. Just Zerglings against +3 armor. I don't really love that for Terran. Nope. Or for Zerk, rather. For Terran, the +3 armor there on those Marines is really sweet. Hatchery in the bottom left gets denied. Another hatchery over here. Okay, cancel. Not too bad. We've got ourselves the Ghost Academy researching the cloaking upgrade. And I would imagine Maru wants to go into some Liberators as well. In the previous game, he never really had the money to make the transition towards Mass Liberator Ghost. I wonder if, now considering that he does have a better economy, he will make that play. He's going for 4 additional CCs. Yet again, though, he's going to need it because I think this is another planetary getting destroyed. That command center is also going to get cancelled. SCVs will slither away, but that's another base down the drain. And a couple of Zerglings will burrow underneath. Hatchery in the bottom left. Maru's thinking about striking right over here. This game is going better now, though, for Terran. Like, the fact of the matter is that blowing up planetaries is expensive. Yeah, and this is where Maru is growing his advantage. Little hit squad over here, too. Okay. Okay, this is good. Although he didn't bring any medevacs to evacuate these units out, which is a little bit surprising. But we still have like a 2-to-1 ratio pretty much right here for the Terran. Just far more cost-effective. And that's a big deal. Ooh. Dang. One of the reasons that Terran is so cost-efficient. As we have a burrowed Baneling over here. A couple of them. That's cheeky. We have a lot of Zerglings just hanging around. He needs to be so careful, though. Getting those Banelings in the mineral lines is dangerous work. Let's see, where did the Zerglings go next? Well, they're going to be needed over here. Banelings try to morph into a very risky spot. Drones trying to long-distance mine this. Is there enough, though, for Terran to break through? I believe so. More and more of those Banes will finish up momentarily, and... well, the hatchery is already gone. Maru doesn't want to overstay his welcome. He does not go deep onto creep. Makes a lot of sense. Now, Ultras are coming. The first Ultralisks of the series. Ultralisk fans, rise up. All 3 of you. The big chompas. Maru's got so many command centers now that he can actually replenish any losses very quickly. Upper right and base does indeed end up falling. Ooh. Yeah, those Baneling detonations are just so expensive, man. That's more Banes here, rolling into planetaries, into command centers, into, well, just now a siege tank as well. And Banelings are 50 minerals, 25 gas each. Okay, like, they're expensive. Like, if it takes you 30 Banelings to kill a tank and a planetary, that is by no means cost efficient. So that is where Maru's real advantage is right now starting to be built from. Yeah, he may have lost 3 planetaries, but I think every single one of those planetaries has paid for itself like 3 times over. He doesn't have to venture too far off creep to find these bases. Cheeky little morphin right there with the Spore Crawler. Nicely done. Long distance mine continues. Burrowed... okay. Burrowed Widow Mine. Kind of like a Zergling, I suppose, blocking a base. Yeah, now Maru. Maru is pulling pretty far ahead economically. Serral may have had more mining. He may have had more bases. But he also has taken some really atrocious trades. And it's pretty much a 2-to-1, yeah, it's a 2-to-1 ratio, right? Like, we have like 70,000 resources lost on the side of the Terran. Not quite as much, I guess, on the side of the Zerg. Never do math, Law. Don't do it. Never do math. Ever. Ever. Unless you're like an accountant or something. Then maybe you should do math sometimes. But friends don't let friends do math, so I don't recommend it. Zerglings, though, finally do break through. And this is a nice little push here for Serral. Infestor? Ooh, it unburrowed, but it did not quite get a fungal off in time. If Serral can get a good fungal off on these types of armies, it is still certainly a really playable game for him. But Serral's broke. 86 drones, 60 SCVs, plus mules, of course. Serral now going into the good old microbial shroud. Everybody's favorite upgrade. Zerglings slip through the cracks yet again. Now, just like in the previous game, if Serral can mine out the outer bases, like the most shareable bases, I suppose, if he can mine out both the top right as well as the far bottom left, this game is still in the bag for him. It is very much so up to the Terran player to prevent that from happening, as we now get a good fungal growth into a parasitic bomb combo. Snipey boys are going in though. Ultras are not achieving that much, although they are dealing a decent chunk of damage. I really thought the snipes were going to finish them off sooner than they actually are. As soon as the SCVs die, more and more mules are dropped down. But you know what? As long as Serral has those outer bases up, as long as he's got the corner bases going, it is kind of playable for him. Zergling's trying her absolute best. Not quite able to achieve too much here. Yeah, the mules are really sweet. The mules are so nice here. The income is still heavily in favor of the Zerg. Maru also doesn't quite have the resources anymore to max out. He will max out over the next minute again. But neither of these two players has a bank. These middle bases are tough to mine, by the way. Like, I don't think Terran is going to have an easy time taking it at all. Serral's been already taking these mineral lines a bunch of times, but I think he's going to get denied repeatedly. Now, this base over here, sniping it, I think this is where Maru's next expansion is likely to go down. Nice fungal growth, though. Chain fungaling it as well. Say goodbye to the Marines and the Marauders there. Zergling Ultra run by in the left side of the map once more. I think that's another planetary fortress dying. Serral decides to save at least some of the Banelings this time around. Hatchery in the upper right, though, likewise also disappears. An eye for an eye. An SCV for a drone. A command center for a hatchery. An Ultralisk for a siege tank. What a beautiful thing. These Marauders are going to have to run away. Well, I say that. I'm assuming Lynx are coming. There they are. Medivacs. Ooh. Man, the Medivacs could have gone in to save it, but he doesn't want to get fungled. Serral retakes the upper right-hand base, by the way. Far bottom left is still mining. And this has now turned into a bit of a war. Maru cannot really take the upper right-hand corner of this map confidently without then also exposing the base over here on the left. He just doesn't have the army count to be able to support both locations and defend both sides. Serral will be happy, though, fighting over this location over here, especially with fungal growth like that. Lovely fungal. Say goodbye to the tanks yet again. And you know what? This game was starting to look dire for Serral, but it's now starting to tip in his favor yet again. The problem is these corner bases. Like, Maru needs to mine one of them, and every minute that ticks by, Serral is gobbling up more and more of those finite resources. Look, the siege tanks are covering some of these minerals over here, but they're not able to get all of them. Serral really trying to get the scraps of the map. Even though there's still a lot of mining available, just in general. He's kind of treating the map like it's already on his last legs. Maru flying the command center in this direction now. Not a planetary, though. A single Liberator up in the air, and it looks like the SCV train has arrived. Now, I don't think you can land the CC. There's too much creep. Oh, you can? Wow, okay. Maru just squeezing it in between the creep somehow. Serral probably looked at it too and thought it wasn't possible. Would have really liked to move one of those creep tumors slightly further forward, I suppose, but this is going to push the issue for him. He cannot really deny this base very efficiently, or can he? He decides to just pull the trigger. There's a lot of Terran nearby, though. He needs to get a fungal growth. I guess the SCVs are going to die within the first few seconds of this fight. I think the Zerg backing up here is the right call. All the Ultras, I believe, are still alive. 20 SCVs down the drain, but that was mostly Zerglings dying for the cause. The next method of mining will be those yellow machines, and Serral's reinforcements, I think, will be sent on over in this direction almost immediately. You know what? Mules blown up by Banelings. It is not something you see every day. Immediately, more energy is going to be expended, though. Times are dire here for Maru. More and more Zerglings are moving into the left side of the map too. Yeah, and this is just one of those games, man, where Serral just seems to be better. And it's really rough for Maru. Like, he's playing some really strong StarCraft. But it just feels like Serral may be one bridge too far. He's unable to really go toe-to-toe with him here. Even though it's extremely close and his game still can tip in his favor, Serral just seems to be dominating the battlefield to a level that is unprecedented. Maybe somebody needs to go check him out. These games are played online. Maybe Serral has had some sort of surgery where he's got like an extra set of arms. Maybe he's playing with 2 keyboards, who knows? Maybe he's got a bionic eye. Maybe he can see through the minimap. Seriously though, like, it seems like everything is just a little bit too fast, a little bit too smooth. Maybe he's evolved. Dum bum 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 ba da da. Maybe Serral has evolved into a Serosk. Maybe it's like Machamp, you know? He gets extra arms. Evolution completed. Now look at this. Look, most of this game, most of StarCraft 2 is all about military and war and science fiction and all the rest of it. But look, there's love. At least in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Not so much over here in the upper right. Ultras once more breaking through. Ah, this is crazy. This is by far Maru's best showing in this series. And ultimately... Oh, never mind, by the way. There was war as well. Oh, that's almost mean. Ultimately, it just... Oh my god, we have the same thing happening over here, too. Ultimately, it just feels like Serral's too good. Too fast. Too smooth. Micro too powerful. Macro too solid. Strategically too strong. Jawline too divine. Fungal going in again, man. We have infestors. How is he even hotkeying all those infestors? Like, they're everywhere. Oi, oi, oi. GG. Okay. So what do? We're finding ourselves on the 4th map in this best of 9 series. First to 5 points will be the victor of the tournament. But what do you do now if you're Maru? Like, you have played your A game. You have shown your hand. And it turns out your hand is not good enough. Do you do more of the same? Do you decide to throw some curveballs of your own? Well, Maru normally, and this is something he doesn't really do against Serral very much. Normally, Maru really is a very strategic player who cuts corners left, right, and center. He does it all the time against the likes of, for example, Raynor or Rogue or any of those other Zerg opponents that he plays against quite frequently. But against Serral, he just plays the most ordinary early game possible. We're gonna go into some Hellion Banshee again, I guess. Triple Command Center, Hellion Banshee. We have seen this all before. Okay. I mean, he doesn't have to go for a tech lab, but I think he will. Judging by, you know, how close. Like, that barracks is literally in the personal space of that starport. It might be a little bit too much. Second gas inside of the main base is up. Serral, though, opening up triple hatchery yet again. After playing a very tricky early game in game number 1 and 2, now we are going into a very normal game again, just like he did in game number 3. Although he did make a very large group of links. And this amount of Zerglings is a bit odd. It's mass drone on the back of this. He did cut a couple queens as well to pull this sort of thing off. I guess the plan, as we have Pervert Otto again, sitting on top of his mighty pillar, I think the plan is to go out. Ooh. Sneaks around the side. Dude, look at Maru looking around as well. He knows that something fishy's going on here, and... Well, maybe Serral isn't a Pokemon, but he was hiding in the tall grass, and Maru apparently did not bring his Pokeballs, which is a little bit sad for him. Double NG Bay yet again. Nah, still though. Serral committed to a lot of lings early on, and it did get a bit of value, but not all the value that he was likely hoping for. Otto is once more dead. Being a pervert, apparently. In StarCraft 2, not okay. Fair enough, fair enough. Can't even be looking at people from a distance anymore. Or, you know, in Otto's case, right next to them. Unlucky. Anyhow, 1-1 upgrades here coming up for Maru yet again. Yeah, just because something flies doesn't mean it's also peeping on you, right? Like, maybe it was just minding its own business. Four-and-a-half-minute lair in game number 3 for Serral. Right now we're going double upgrades before a lair, it seems. Yeah, and this is all a little bit greedy. Like a large group of Zerglings, taking a page maybe out of Dark's book. A large group of Zerglings. And then double upgrades before lair. I mean, we really need to fire up a lair now if we ever want to be going into any form of baneling speed ever. And that has me a little bit concerned. Okay, we're going both Roachborn as well as Baneling Nest at the same time. Still no lair though, which is... Makes me wonder... okay, never mind. He starts it up now. Man, that's late. Makes me wonder if he wants to go for some sort of push. The problem here for Maru is that he doesn't know. Right? Maru hasn't really figured out precisely what he's playing against. There are many tells. First off, seeing the lair. Secondly, seeing the timing of these structures. As Serral actually decides to cancel the Baneling Nest. Maybe he thought for a moment that this was going to be Terran mech. He also never saw the evolution chambers. So Maru could go for a big push right now, and it would actually be a very dangerous one for the Zork player. Basically, anything up until Baneling speed being done is dangerous right now for Serral. And Baneling speed is still like 2 minutes away. But if Maru from the previous games is anything to go off of, I don't think he's going to do anything. I think he's likely just going to sit. Now, this is nice, though. Really lovely little drop. Yep. Say goodbye to your hatch. Okay. The Marines will pick up and get on out of there. There's already, though, a 4th hatchery on the left side of the map, and Serral's going to be able to continue droning because of it. +2 attack starts up, +2 carapace as well for the Marines, +2 armor, that is. Zorkling Scout sees this incoming attack. Really important scout, by the way, here. We have some slow banelings being morphed in. Centrifugal hooks is coming up. Infestation pit is building. But this is a real push right now that can deal some proper damage, I think. I love the fire bats here, the hell bats in the back. If Maru can snipe this base, that would be massive. Serral's doing a little mating ritual in the far bottom right. Now, this is not good, though, for Maru. Okay, he does save some of those units because of those hellbats, but... Serral needs to keep this base alive, right? Like, he really doesn't have a choice. Likewise for this base, though. I thought the amount of Zerglings there was gonna be enough, but right now, he has to all-army hotkey everything towards this corner of the map. I think he's gonna be able to save the hatchery for the time being. Maybe, though. Oh, it's an absolute bloodbath. He decides to pull the trigger. Nice micro there by Maru, who's sending in the reinforcements now towards the left. Baneling speed is finally done. But I wonder if it's already a little late. 2-2 is now on the horizon. And when 2-2 finishes, this Terran army is gonna be spicy. Queens again moving to the front. Zorkling run by, though. That's always an option, but... Ooh, okay. I thought this was going to be denied. Not quite the case, it seems, but I mean, that was still a very expensive set of units to lose here for the Zork player, and he really has still not addressed his army over on the left. Banelings are starting to move through. Pick up, get out of there! A little slow on the micro, Maru, if I can be critical. He needs to be very cautious, right? Like, he cannot really afford a bunch of Banelings crashing into his juicy marine count, but what we have over here is a planetary fortress in the making. SCV train heads on up north. 5th command center coming up. Zergling run by attempted yet again, but deflected. Okay. Maru keeps on nibbling away at this hatch. Siege tank has moved a little bit further forward, and that's always another big connection, man. Like, this is Maru's best shot at getting a point on the board in this series. And he needs to make sure he doesn't just let it slip. The micro here on the left... Oh, again! The micro here on the left side of the map has been very suboptimal. The only reason Serral is able to keep this base alive is because of miscontrol right here from Maru. That is the brutal truth. Oh, no. Did Maru just fumble it? Planetary Fortress coming up at the 12 o'clock position. He's still gonna have a stellar eco, which is really nice. 5th Command Center over here either got cancelled or he decided not to build it in the end. I'm not exactly sure, but there was a new CC in production. Maru all army hotkeys back as there's a group of links coming through. Serral doesn't need much, man, to climb back into the driver's seat of this match. But he really does need this base. And Maru still has the numbers, he still has the upgrades, he still has everything going in his favor. Here we go again, little hit squad of units. This time around the fight takes place off creep. Much easier to micro against the Zerg. Decides to pick up early. Hydra then on the back of this here, so Serral is at hive tech, but he decides not to go into ultras or anything along those lines. I guess Ultraling Bane would be sweet, but it takes too long to get to. Hydraling Bane it is. Couple Vipers maybe for support, maybe an Infestor or two, that could be nice. But for now, it's just going to be this brute force of Zerglings. Adrenal Glands is not yet done, so these fights are actually very manageable here for Maru. Maru's going to get 3-3 as well in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, Serral's still a beast, man. Like, he's in trouble this game, don't get me wrong. But I've got a feeling that if the micro was a little bit sharper, that this game would have already been over. And he doesn't really need much to get back into the match. Like, he's trying his absolute best. Zergling run by, moving on over towards the 3rd hatch. Of the Terran, that is. This is a hatchery of a Terran. And you know what? This is a pretty sweet little push. Siege tank goes down, and many of these SCVs may also die if not careful. Medevac drop over here does not seem to achieve too much. Push in the middle, though, was still successful, and that hatchery is gone. Burrowed links now. Only 4 SCVs die. Hatchery in the bottom still alive, but what about the Marauder hit squad? Can we finish it off? Can we kill the base? Oh, transfusion's going in! Oh, yo, he keeps it alive. Okay. Some very low HP armies. Now, what's really kind of crazy is that I'm paying close attention to these fights, but they are skirmishing us at the same time as well in the middle of the map. Okay, well, the medevac is gone, and that means that the hatchery will live. It will live for now. I think these links can continue nibbling away at some of those SCVs. We're gonna try and make a push again for the base over on the left. This time around, the micro has to be sharper, and it is not. Yet again, Banelings are rolling through. Zerglings get perfect surrounds. And I guess it was because those links did on Burrow. Maru was a little bit distracted. What about the hatchery over here? What about the hatchery over here? Mass transfusion by the Zerg. Serral is gonna keep the base around for just a few more seconds. But ultimately, Maru snipes it. The problem is, though, that Maru threw away a lot of units to try and get that base down. And he killed it, yes, but at what cost? Still, he's got really solid upgrades. 3-3 is now done. He's got 80 workers worth of mining, which is more than the Zerg player has. He's got a stellar amount of army as well. He's going to max out like a minute before the Zerg can do so. He still is holding all of the cards. This hasn't been a clean game from Maru, but I think it may just prove clean enough. Serral is making him work for it, though. He fell behind early on. This is a pretty tough map as well for Zerg in general. One of the reasons, I guess, why the map is, going Maru's way here. Hatchery dies again. And it's so Marauder heavy now that Banelings are just not an efficient unit whatsoever. Maru decides to make another CC. This is 100% a opportunity to go and push for the win, but he decides to just not take any chances. Why risk it? Then again, I also don't think you want to give Serral too much wiggle room, especially with the way that the micro has been going here, if I'm allowed to be so honest. I don't think you want to give Serral too much wiggle room. Zerglings on the right do get some good wraparounds, but Maru is taking this entire fight now off creep, and that's exactly where it needs to be for this to go in his favor. GG gets called. Maru gets a point on the board. And that takes us to beautiful winter madness. Actually, it's springtime over here now. The sun's been shining. Get this snow off my screen! I've had enough of it! Oh, Serral again wants to go for this hatchery over here. Most of the time, Zerg really want to go for the triangle base. Anyways. The Reaper dance will indeed start up yet again. Interestingly enough, though, Maru did not actually lead this with an SCV scout, so the hatchery is gonna go up, meaning that Serral could have just gone for this base over here. This could be a misread, though, for Maru. He's gonna check the other location? He needs to. Yeah, he will. Okay. Could be problematic. So it's really funny because most of the time, the only reason that Zergs ever pick this base is because the other one got blocked. And even then, they kind of prefer opening up 2 hatch instead of 3, because this hatchery over here is just kind of annoying. Now Serral basically took it out of, his own free will. He just decided to take the base. Maybe he assumed there was an SCV block. Maybe he assumed that Maru would not SCV block, but not check for the alternative third base location, and therefore pull ahead. A little bit hard to say exactly what's going on here, but it is certainly a bit of an odd one. Triple command center opener yet again, though, on the other side of the map. Serral did make a mass amount of links early on. Yeah, it kind of feels like you're making it harder for yourself for no apparent reason. Like, this is kind of like the StarCraft 2 equivalent of, like, the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball Z. Serral playing with, like, the extra gravity turned on right now. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it allows him to go Super Saiyan 7 or something. I don't know. Roach Warren. Ooh, it's a Roach Warren hiding. Ooh, with 2 additional gases as well. Roach Warren, 2 gas. Now this, I believe, explains the positioning of the hatch. Otto dies, but I think the plan right here for Serral is to do a Roach Rush. This base, of course, is leaning in the direction of the Terran, meaning that your reinforcements will arrive ever so slightly quicker. We're going to go for a big push. Yeah, I guess it could be that this base has some Liberator spots that are annoying. I don't know, though. Like, I think taking this as your third base is just significantly worse, unless you actually use it as, like, an aggressive staging ground over here. But that is the plan. Serral's going for a full-on all-in. This is a Roach Rush with, I think, Ravagers on the other side of the map. And while the Roaches are running across, you reinforce with Mass Ling. Triple CC, though, has already landed. We do not have a Banshee follow-up, even though he did make over here the Tech Lab. Oh, no. Maru is in a world of trouble. This is going to be a gigantic push that will be very difficult to hold for Terran. He needs Banshees. Or at least a siege tank or 2, but, like, that is miles away. This Liberator over here is annoying, but the Queen can take care of it by herself. Maru actually did not quite have the vision there. Serral did not blink. Decided to force that unit to re-siege up in a different spot. But here goes the Roach Ravager Ling army, and this is an army that I think will be pretty much impossible for the Terran to stop. I mean, what do we have? We have 7 Hellions, 1 Viking, 1 Reaper, 1 Liberator, and 5 Marines, and it's certainly not enough. GG. And that takes us to Tourmaline. Match point here for Serral. Maru is going to have to win the next 4 maps. Now, I think that that is going to be tough. If anybody can do it, it would be Clem. I started that sentence and I was thinking I was going to finish that with Maru, but no. No, sorry, no. Was that mean? Maybe that's mean. Anyways, honestly, he's the only person, though, that I have seen actually make Serral sweat. And obviously, I mean, Serral probably doesn't enjoy being reminded of this, but they did play that EWC Grand Finals in 2024, where Clem ended up 5-0ing Serral for, I think this was a $450,000 first place prize. Not too shabby. Pretty good series, I would say. No, but seriously, like, this is a massive uphill battle right now for Maru. The thing that has me worried is that in the straight-up macro games, he seems to get outplayed. Right? And that is basically what you gotta do as Maru here, is do the same thing, but play better. Just play better. That's all you gotta do. Which is obviously the only thing he's been focusing on in life, I'm pretty sure, for like the last 16 years. Triple command center opener yet again. Double barracks this time around, so very quick stimpak. If this is a similar push as what Serral went for in the previous game, and you know what, we have a Roach Warren yet again. We do have a forward hatchery yet again too. He is gonna have stimpak done. Although this is a Roach Warren a little bit earlier than the one in the previous game, and no additional gas is taken. So it's a different build for sure. This looks a lot more like the safety Roach Warren that we saw in game number 2, where Serral followed it up with a burrowed Roach push, which then put him very far ahead on 10,000 feet. If you remember, this was like an hour and a half ago, man. It's been a long series. Maybe an hour, I don't know. It's been a bit. Zergling gets roasted, but Serral does get the full scout. Maru, by the way, I've had a couple of people ask about this, because all the Koreans, like for example Dark, have to go off to the military and do their mandatory military service. Maru, as far as I understand, got a exemption from it, as we have some Zerglings going in. Yeah, I believe Maru played so much StarCraft that he basically ground his shoulder down. And because of that, he got an exemption from the military, which, you know, means he doesn't have to suddenly leave for like a year and a half, 2 years or whatever. Which is kind of nice, I guess, but also, apparently he has all sorts of joint issues because he's been playing so much StarCraft. I'm not exactly sure. But either way, it does mean that Maru does not, even though he's kind of at that age right now, he does not actually have to leave and come back later. The cold hard truth seems to be that whenever a top level player has to take a break because of the military service, they pretty much always fall off. At least a little bit. Now some of them climb back up, like for example Björn, like for example Rogue. Serral obviously also did do his military service in Finland, but that seemed to be very different because he was still allowed to participate in tournaments and all the rest of it. Different situation for different countries, I suppose. We'll have to see, I guess, when Dark ultimately returns. Dark is constantly tweeting about StarCraft, so I'm assuming he will come back when his time is up, which I think is at the end of 2026. Anyhow, this is, what I'm trying to say, though, is that this is a tough game here for Maru. He may be able to continue playing StarCraft 2 for a long time to come, assuming his joints will actually stay reasonable and healthy enough, but Serral always seems to be one of his main nemesises. Nemesi. Nemesusi. Whatever the plural or possessive form of... Anyways. It's again an infestation pit for Serral. So Serral is opening up roaches similar to what he did in the previous game. But the problem he's running into is that this is now a much more macro-focused game. We are not going tunneling claws. We're not doing a roach all-in. Now the roaches really are just a stepping stone. Now, a stepping stone to what? That's the big question. We've got ourselves a baneling nest. We're going into a hive. This may just be roaches to be effectively safe against all things. And I don't think that would be a bad idea, because if you look at the previous games so far, Serral has basically been ahead in every macro game in the long run. So this looks like one of those builds where you can effectively force the macro game. If you play well enough, you can defend against any attack from the Terran. So the game automatically gets dragged out a bunch, and then you, well, can maybe win when the game goes a little bit longer. This does mean, though, that Maru also gets all the time in the world to do whatever he likes. That's a second factory out at the front. That is a fourth command center inside of the main base. Yet again, actually, he opted to go for a fourth command center before a second factory. Maybe a little bit of a development there for Maru. Normally, Terran players like to take the second factory first and then the fourth CC. Maru now doing it a little differently throughout this series. He fires up 2-2 though. And it looks like we are settling in for another macro game. Serral's got his hive finished. This is like a 7.5 minute hive, by the way. Just let that sink in for a little bit. I feel like sometimes it's nice to compare what the pro gamers are doing to your own games, you know? So this is like a 7.5 minute hive done. We have 4 bases fully saturated, 5th base coming up, right? Like, this is the speed at which these guys are going, even in normal games, is kind of ridiculous. Maru, 8 minutes in, securing a 4th base. 2-2 on the horizon. Creep spread is looking kind of ridiculous, by the way. Like, this is the downside of opening up with a very, very quick second barracks like that as a Terran. You just do not have the Banshees out, and you don't have that many Hellions either. So, like, we've only had a handful of Hellions now turned into Hellbats, and they have not sniped any creep tumors, right? And it's something really that you gotta take into consideration as a Terran when you choose to open up with very quick Stimpak, because creep, like, it's exponential unless the human is the bottleneck, right? Because the longer the game goes on, the more creep tumors there are, the faster the spread will move. Now, whenever I play, I am the bottleneck. It's me. Hello, it's me. I'm the problem. But for Serral, he's got a lot of APM to play with. He can keep spreading that creep around. And even he is not doing it absolutely perfectly. He's not 100% on top of every single one of them. But slowing it down early on is really big. Here we go, though. Serral's moving through. He's got the creep basically touching the 4th command center here of the Terran, and Maru wants to grab this base really badly, but he's unable to really get the job done. So many Banelings still remain. The blinding clouds on top of the, well, green grass right here on Tourmaline is a little difficult to see, but he's been disabling those tanks. And suddenly, Zerk is just crashing in. My god, this fight was absolutely atrocious here for Maru, who's now going to be taking a beating over at his 3rd. Serral's plan was to deny the 4th base and kill a bunch of siege tanks. He got that and then a whole lot more in return too. Look at the supply count. Suddenly there's like a 60 supply gap. This is him pushing right when Adrenal Glands is done and then right before Terran finishes 2-2. In the meantime, hatchery being taken in the upper left. Creep spread over on the map has once more been spreading around, and it is, yeah, not a good position here for Maru whatsoever. He's going to try and test the waters with a sneaky base over at the 3 o'clock. Fair enough. Zerkling is going to block it, though, from landing. Brenda will die at the front lines. That's a little bit sad. Otto dies. Brenda dies. All your favorite characters for the Zerk are gone. But you know what? Their sacrifice looks like one that is ultimately going to lead to a victory. Oh, nice splitty there at the end. Yeah. You see a line glitch out? The line was actually glitching out because of the ramp there. Now Zerk is coming in from the side. Blinding clouds yet again. Really difficult to see on this map. More and more SCVs are dying though, and while the command center was allowed to land for just a little bit, Serral is trying to see if he can break through all of this. Oh, he's biling his own roaches. That's nice, I guess. Siege tank will be repaired for just a moment, and even though I think more SCVs could have died, 18 SCVs is still nothing to scoff at. And I mean, this is a disaster here for Maru. An absolute disaster. He just doesn't have anything going for him. He's got 5 command centers yet. He's got 3 command or 3 upgrades here coming up. That's nice. But where do you take this game from here? We have seen this before. We've had this on 10,000 feet, for example. Similar game as well, but Serral's advantage wasn't that big on that map as it is on this one. Serral's now gobbling up the entire map. Braddock has assigned... Braddock, one of the other commentators for the game, has decided to just leave. I guess he has seen enough. Maybe a Maru fan, who knows? But I do believe that this may be just one bridge too far here for Maru. You know the games are going rough when the commentators are rage quitting. No, I guess there was a lag spike. Must have been. He probably disconnected. Kind of sucks for you, actually, when you're casting a best of 9 grand finals and you miss one of the games. Serral, though, is tightening the noose. He's being more aggressive than he was on 10,000 feet, but he apparently is trying to see if he can get this Terran player out of his game. He wants to win the grand finals of the PiG Sty right here, right now, even taking what is normally the 5th base of the Terran, right next to the natural here, in the upper left-hand corner, simultaneously gobbling up the far bottom right as well. Ultra Cavern this time around. He did not go for that on 10,000 feet. Instead, he made a greater Spire and then never used it. But this is a different approach. I guess he's deeming this advantage bigger than the one on 10,000 feet. And he may as well just try and see if he can push the issue. Terran once more takes the 3 o'clock base, but he needs to hold this base. It is not optional. Maru cannot win this game. 3 base versus like 8. Honestly, I'm not sure that he can win 4 bases versus like 8. He's going to have to try though, as again the Zerg is crashing through. Now that split was pretty good by the Terran. Much better micro than in the previous game. Now this is maybe an opportunity for Maru to strike. Serral wanted to save up money for Ultralisks. Did not quite decide to go for that. Reinforces with Mass Ling instead. Okay. There is also a freebie of a hatchery in the far bottom right. Maru has to test the waters here a little bit. Decides to engage on creep, and that is always a dangerous call to make. Now the Banelings are crashing through, and they're actually connecting with quite a few of the Marines. +3 melee just seconds away from being done. Liberator will stay alive for now. Maru is going to continue pushing. He does have this base up and running now, which is great. Okay, hatchery over here. Ooh, stays alive for a little bit longer. But it is looking like it will ultimately fall if Maru can continue to push one last time. Zerglings, though, are dealing so much damage. Chitinous plating now coming up here for Serral. A little bit late with that research. He just doesn't really have the mineral income. He's a little bit too gas heavy, I suppose. Look at this, man. Maru, okay, decides to tap out in the end. He knows that that attack on the right side is just going to be one that will not be stopped. And ultimately, it means that Serral obtains the victory here in this best of 9 series. And therefore, he is the winner of the lion's share of $10,000. That's nice. But even more importantly, he is once more the winner of the PiG Sty tournament. GG.